Well, the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa says that wage talks with Eskom have collapsed. NUMSA says that's due to Eskom's refusal to account for diesel and IPP contracts, which it says are corrupt. For more on this, let's speak to NUMSA spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi-Majola. Phakamile, good to speak to you as always. Why are you saying Eskom is responsible for the collapse of these wage talks, and what's the link to the contracts?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers, and thank you for having me on the show. Eskom collapsed these wage talks, and we can say this because this week we were meeting, we had a fourth round of talks which was scheduled to begin from the 21st to the 22nd of June. Today would have been the last day of the fourth round. We had agreed in the last session that we would have a fourth round to engage further.
All right, I suspect we've lost NUMSA spokesperson Phakamile Hlubi-Majola. We are currently dealing with stage 2 load shedding, and you'd imagine, well, not imagine, you've probably experienced this yourself, interference with signal, be it on a cell phone or if you are connecting virtually, as Phakamile was speaking to us there via Zoom, I believe. Phakamile, I'm told we have you back. You were just talking about why these wage discussions have now collapsed.
Yes, indeed. I apologize for that. As I was saying, we were effectively supposed to be tabling our demands in terms of what we'd agreed to for the fourth round. What NUMSA simply asked Eskom in that meeting was, why is it that Eskom is taking money away from workers and spending it on these bloated, corrupt IPP and diesel contracts? And instead of them engaging us and responding to what we'd said based on the presentations we'd made to CBF, they staged a walkout and declared a dispute. And as far as we're concerned, this is basically them collapsing talks. They don't want to engage. They don't want to account to the public or to workers about the fact that they are taking away benefits and conditions from hardworking men and women in Eskom in order to justify the looting that continues through these bloated procurement contracts with IPPs as well as with coal and with diesel suppliers.
And how are jobs being taken away from the people you speak of?
Well, jobs are certainly threatened. If you recall, Eskom has made plans to shed jobs, at least 2,000 jobs. It's also, as we continue to close down power stations in order to make way for renewable energy independent power stations, which are privately owned, it means that coal stations will close down. And I don't know if you were aware, Tembekile, but the GCO of Eskom this week remarked how in Mpumalanga, for example, the conditions there are perfect for privately owned solar renewable companies. And for him to be making these remarks when there is supposed to be a process underway, where there's supposed to be engagements with communities in relation to ensuring a just transition as we move from a carbon-based economy to an economy that is more reliant on renewable energy, he's already making pronouncements about how the private sector is going to be more involved in providing renewable energy. NUMSA is on record saying that these privately owned renewable companies will not replace the number of jobs that are going to be lost in the coal sector. None of these companies have been able to demonstrate the jobs that they can create that are going to be lost. We're talking about more than 100,000 jobs that will be lost. This government does not care about what's going to happen to Mpumalanga, which right now depends on coal and coal mining, and it's made absolutely no social plans to deal with that scenario. But already we're closing down coal-fired power stations, and no plans have been made to replace those jobs.
And Phakamile, as things stand, you've got the discussions that are meant to get to an agreement on wage increases. You've got all these questions which you've raised about IPP contracts and the rest of it. Does NUMSA believe that it's possible to deal with the two issues separately?
Of course, these issues are being dealt with separately on different platforms. The issue of just transition obviously is not part of the Central Bargaining Forum. That's a different process entirely. But we can't divorce these issues from each other, though. What is happening at Eskom is that under the guise of this new dawn, the looting that people say only happened under Jacob Zuma is continuing. And it's happening under the management of Andre de Ruyter and with the blessing of this ANC government. They are refusing to intervene on the bloated coal contracts, which, by the way, in the last 4 years have cost us more than 85 billion. They've gone up more than 85. They've gone up astronomically from 85 billion in 2016-2017 to 116 billion in 2020-2021. Whereas workers' wages have actually remained very flat. They've not gone beyond 17 billion over the last 4 years. And workers' wages have no impact on Eskom's balance sheet. But these extremely high costs that we're paying for primary energy, that we're paying for coal, that we're paying for IPPs, continue to increase year on year without any intervention. When NUMSA asks from Eskom details about contracts, who are the beneficiaries, how much are these contracts worth, Eskom refuses to disclose. So we're dealing here with an Eskom management that is hiding this kind of blatant corruption that's happening right under our noses. They are refusing to be transparent and to disclose to the public. And at the same time, workers are being used as sacrificial lambs. Their benefits, their wages are being taken away in order to justify this corruption. And NUMSA is rejecting all of it. We've been saying consistently for some time now that workers are being used as a sacrifice for the continuation of the looting that's happening in this government. We are not seeing any real changes in terms of dealing with corruption. And unfortunately, those who are going to pay the highest price will be workers and their families.
When then, for the benefit of those workers who are dealing with the rising cost of living in South Africa, at this point, when do you think unions and Eskom management will be able to sit down again to begin to hammer out the issue of wage increases?
The challenge we have is that Eskom has walked out of central bargaining. They have declared a dispute. So we have to wait on them now. We obviously want to come back to the table and find one another and resolve this, because it is in everybody's interest for us to find one another. It is in everybody's interest for Eskom to come clean and to be honest with the public about its shady dealings with some of these contractors. And as long as nobody is going to hold them to account, we're not going to see any real changes at Eskom. Its debt burdens will continue to spiral out of control. So what we need is meaningful engagement, and that, of course, requires political will. So the ball is in Eskom's court. They are the ones who need to demonstrate to workers and to the public as to whether they are committed truly to clean governance and whether they are committed truly to ensuring that workers and their families at Eskom are able to obtain meaningful increases.
Phakamile Hlubi-Majola, good to have your time as always. Thank you.